All right, another Cleveland Browns training camp day in the books, and a much needed good day for Deshaun Watson. 17 of 20, 7 touchdowns, no picks. Now,
What happens when an entire local sports media ecosystem becomes absolutely terrified that a massive $230 million front office mistake is about to be completely exposed by a young, heavily doubted quarterback? We are currently witnessing one of the most desperate, highly coordinated media spin cycles in the modern history of the National Football League. Day 7 of the Cleveland Browns training camp has officially concluded, and the local press corps is currently throwing a massive celebration because veteran Deshaun Watson finally managed to string together a single, highly productive practice. But behind the flashy headlines and the manufactured praise lies a deeply toxic, incredibly hypocritical double standard. The establishment is desperately trying to convince you that the quarterback battle is over, while actively attempting to erase the undeniable reality that Shedeur Sanders has been absolutely dominating this competition. You are locked into the absolute, undisputed authority on the raw, unvarnished truth behind the biggest cover-ups, controversies, and locker room agendas in professional football.
Had better flow of the offense, knew exactly where they wanted to go with the football, and understood this phase of the install. And I got to give both quarterbacks credit for that because we've been out there, we've seen it.
Make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit the like, and let's dive directly into the incredibly shady media bias that has the entire football world demanding answers. To truly comprehend the sheer, mind-numbing absurdity of the current media narrative, you have to rewind the clock and look at the incredibly calculated manipulation that occurred before the pads even came on. For months, the anybody but Shedeur mafia within the Cleveland...
We'll talk trackers today, boy.
Yeah, we're gonna
get to it.
We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna use it for this context. If we're going off the tracker, what I like is the one thing about Shedeur that I thought he needed to work on from last year to this year was turn down the turnovers. You know, eliminate. You can't get zero. If you get zero, I mean that's ultimately what everybody's striving for. But this is the NFL. Guys are going to throw interceptions because these defenses is good. But the fact to see him not throwing
press corps has been clinging to the desperate hope that Deshaun Watson would seamlessly reclaim his throne. Prominent beat reporters aggressively lobbied the front office during the spring, practically begging the coaching staff to just unconditionally name Watson the starter and end the competition immediately. Why? Because they knew the absolute truth. They knew that if Shedeur Sanders was given a legitimate, completely fair opportunity to go throw for throw, play for play against the struggling veteran, the young quarterback would absolutely smoke his boots. They wanted to permanently close the door before Sanders even had a chance to step onto the grass. But the coaching staff refused to play along, opening up a true competition that has left the media entirely panicked. But that wasn't the whole story, because Day 7 of training camp handed the media the exact lifeline they had been starving for. The headlines immediately exploded across social media, proudly declaring that Deshaun Watson had an absolute masterclass of a day, finishing an incredibly sharp 17 of 20 passing with an astonishing 7 touchdowns and absolutely 0 interceptions. On the surface, those numbers look like the triumphant return of an elite, franchise-altering superstar. But when you actively strip away the hype and look at the structural context of the practice, the illusion completely evaporates. The vast majority of those highly touted statistics were generated during heavily scripted, heavily condensed goal line and red zone installation periods. Watson was not dropping back, navigating a collapsing pocket, and delivering 40-yard strikes down the sideline. He was executing quick, short-yardage concepts.
But I think he's doing a great job of executing that better than the other two for sure.
All right, so for me, let's put into everything with this perspective. Todd Monken said Saturday that you take everything that you say in these first 8 days with a grain of salt because
where the reads are entirely predefined. It was a solid, highly necessary bounce-back day for a player desperately in need of a confidence boost, but treating it like a definitive, battle-ending performance is pure, unadulterated journalistic malpractice. And what happened next on the local radio airwaves would completely shock everyone, violently exposing the actual agenda of the media establishment. During a massive afternoon drive broadcast, veteran analyst G. Bush absolutely stepped into the kitchen and delivered a scorched-earth reality check to fellow media member Anthony Lima. Lima attempted to confidently declare that basically every reporter on site agreed that the quarterback play had been completely ugly across the board. The absolute second those words left his mouth, G. Bush hit the brakes and completely dismantled the lie.
Cleveland, day 7 from Browns training camp is a wrap. Here's how the quarterbacks did in 7-on-7 and 11-on-11. Deshaun Watson took all the first-team reps. Now, if you guys know, in context, they be going back every other day. Deshaun Watson had the reps today. Shedeur Sanders had the reps yesterday. He was 21-25. And Deshaun Watson today was 17-20. Now, the 7 touchdowns, that was the alarming thing for a lot of.
He brilliantly exposed a classic, highly toxic media tactic, using vague, sweeping generalizations to protect a struggling veteran. When Watson struggles, the media refuses to single him out, instead opting to group the entire quarterback room together under the umbrella of ugly play. It is a highly calculated attempt to actively drag Shedeur Sanders down to Watson's level, completely ignoring the fact that Sanders has been consistently operating with lethal efficiency. Bush flat.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so it's hard to break that, but Shedeur has the ability, like he's not scared to throw it down the field, and I think that's more exciting. You know, you think we talked about Todd Monken's offense. You know, we wanted more explosiveness, we wanted more excitement to the offense, and Shedeur is bringing that, and I like that right now. That's why, to me, ultimately, the fact that he's turned down the takeovers and the fact that he has the ability to stretch the ball down the field and put
out called out the fabrication, proving that the actual scorekeepers knew the truth. The absolute, undeniable truth of this quarterback battle is permanently etched into the daily training camp tracking data, and those numbers simply do not lie. Prior to this specific red zone practice, Deshaun Watson had been enduring an absolutely brutal turnover-heavy camp. He had consistently forced passes into tight coverage, locked onto his primary reads, and thrown multiple horrific interceptions directly into the hands of the
Curious.
I think it was a linebacker.
Because that boy Chase Edmond been balling in practice. 41, he been balling. I was just curious if it was him again.
Yeah, he's been balling too right now out here. He's been moving around. He's been getting a lot of hands on the football. But in general, I do think that this today, guys, was
starting secondary. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders has been quietly executing a completely different game plan. Even on day 7, while Watson was collecting his red zone statistics, Sanders posted a highly efficient 11 of 16 passing performance with 2 touchdowns. His only blemish was a highly unlucky interception resulting from a tipped pass at the line of scrimmage, an uncontrollable variable that even the greatest quarterbacks endure. Over the entirety of camp, Sanders has hovered around a staggering 70% completion rate, proving that he values the football and possesses the elite mental processing required to navigate a highly complex, professional defense. This glaring disparity
on field. When we first started the Final Cut program, I think it was episode 2, I listed off a series of things that I needed to see from Shedeur Sanders this season. And this season also includes training camp, right? And it was about playing more on time while maintaining the ability to make big plays off schedule. And we've
in decision-making forces us to examine the incredibly fascinating tactical shift currently occurring under offensive coordinator Todd Monken. The Cleveland Browns are desperately trying to evolve their passing attack into a more explosive, dynamic system. But old habits die incredibly hard. Deshaun Watson spent years operating under the previous coaching regime's highly conservative, dink-and-dunk philosophy. He was conditioned to kill the quick game, hit his checkdowns, and relentlessly play it safe.
About the inconsistencies, talked about him being inaccurate and really not knowing where to go with the football. And today was totally different. He was very accurate. Whatever the install was, clearly it was on the goal line in the red zone. He was able to be successful.
That deeply ingrained mindset has made it incredibly difficult for him to completely unleash Monken's aggressive playbook. Shedeur Sanders, however, operates with a completely different athletic psychology. He is absolutely fearless when it comes to pushing the football vertically. He actively hunts for explosive plays down the field, utilizing his incredible arm talent to stretch the defense and punish safeties who cheat toward the line of scrimmage. Sanders is actively bringing the exact type of high-octane excitement that the front office desperately craves, proving that he is entirely willing to execute the offense exactly how
it's Shedeur. You know, Deshaun is losing this competition. Is right now you should go ahead and just name it Shedeur. And I think that your comparison is right. It was like
what is drawn up on the whiteboard. However, in the interest of absolute, uncompromising analytical fairness, we have to isolate and praise the highly technical, behind-the-scenes improvements that actually define elite quarterback play. The most impressive development from Day 7 had absolutely nothing to do with red zone touchdowns or completion percentages. It had everything to do with the total command of the huddle. Todd Monken recently revealed that his offensive system requires the quarterbacks to master between 10 and 13 incredibly complex, highly varied pre-snap cadences. Throughout the first 6 days of camp, the offense had heavily struggled to utilize this tool, allowing the defensive line to effortlessly tee off on the snap count. But on Day 7, both Watson and Sanders finally unlocked this massive tactical advantage. They successfully executed hard counts, utilized their vocal cadence to manipulate the defensive front, and successfully drew the defense offsides on several crucial occasions. It was a massive, incredibly vital step forward in their mental mastery of the system, proving that the game is finally beginning to slow down for the entire offensive unit, that we are officially standing at an absolute, undeniable precipice regarding the future of this incredibly talented football team. The local media establishment can desperately try to spin the narratives.
Deshaun Watson has been awful through camp, and this is the first practice training camp day where Deshaun Watson looked like he was the best quarterback for this day. Outside of this day, Shedeur Sanders has outplayed.
And the talking heads can continue to hide behind vague, protective excuses, but absolutely nothing changes the terrifying reality waiting just around the corner. The Cleveland Browns are currently operating without full pads, engaging in heavily scripted installation periods that naturally favor the offense in the red zone. But the true...
I was saying when Shedeur Sanders was having good games or good days in practice, I don't like when people be diminishing the moves, bro. Like if it's good throws, you can only do what you can do.
Violent evaluation has not even begun. When the real bullets start flying during the upcoming preseason games, the massive defensive linemen are unchained, and the pocket begins to violently collapse. The practice field illusions will completely evaporate. The media cannot protect a quarterback from a live, unblocked edge rusher. If Deshaun Watson reverts back to his turnover-prone habits under actual physical duress, the front office will have absolutely no choice but to completely hand the keys of the franchise over to Shedeur Sanders. I want to hear your absolute raw, unfiltered thoughts down in the comments below. Do you genuinely believe the local media is actively trying to sabotage Shedeur Sanders to protect Deshaun Watson? And who do you think ultimately takes the very first snap of the regular season? Drop your absolute best, most aggressive takes below, and I will see you all in the very next deep dive.